and to culture wars. Actually, now that I remember, because I keep forgetting every night, to thank the couple who fought a culture war against the ties I've worn every day for years now, thanks to Nadia at Sky, which I love them. But they said, no, you've got to wear ours. So for 3 nights I've been wearing this. I keep forgetting to thank you for it. Thank you so much for these ties, guys. But tomorrow back to Nadia's, otherwise she'll kill me. But to more serious ones, China is stepping up its campaign against Australia. And now it's warning Chinese students not to come to Australia because of our racism. Now, this is actually true that every country there are some racists, like this particular charmer of ours.
Is it really? Oh, yeah? Go back to China. Understand that? Your whole family's going to shut down immediately. And you are too, India.
Eric. Now, like I say, there are always some. But is it really, that kind of thing, is that really the defining characteristic of Australia? I don't think so. But if you listen to the ABC, for years it has painted Australia in the worst light and as racist. They are as negative to us as is China's Communist Party. I'll give you an example. Last month, the ABC actually advertised for complaints about Australian racism towards ethnic Chinese, running stories like racism amid COVID-19 pandemic. The ABC wants to hear your story. And then, of course, it got what it was wanting and it beat up the results, unchecked claims, saying during the epidemic there were multiple discriminatory incidents against Asians in Australia. That is actually prosecuting an agenda. So are you surprised that China now says, yeah, too right, just what the ABC said, racist. Now, on the subject of racism, though, China actually has no right to accuse anyone. And it's not just because it's just jailed 700,000 Muslims for being Muslims. It's also, we've got a guy in China, an Australian chappie, who talks on China TV, presents Chinese television there. And this guy also sings a bit as well, as a China fan. But I'm afraid he's also a bit disillusioned about Chinese racism, because on his Facebook page, he says that over the past couple of days he's been refused entry to establishments, even seen restaurants post no foreigner signs. He's had people ask to be seated away from him. And he's had people abusing him for being a foreigner. Well, joining me is Rowan Dean, editor of The Spectator Australia, author and host of Outsiders on Sky every Sunday. It seems to me, Rowan, that China can't hate us more than many of our own ABC journalists.
I think you're spot on there, Andrew. I think there's 2 things. I think the first thing to say about the ABC is that they're copying the old Tim Soup Parmesani trick. If you can't find any racists, advertise for them, put a thing out on Facebook correct. And say, please, if you've got some racists to come along. I mean, have you, do you find this cartoon racist, or do you know anyone who's had a racist experience? Please write to us. And as you said, and that then allows them to say, well, 100 people wrote into us and 99 of those had experienced some form of racism. Therefore, Australia is racist, and away they run with it. It's cheap and shoddy journalism to begin with, and you wonder why we bother paying $1 billion a year, the ABC, if all they need to do is just stick ads on Facebook. I mean, that would be the first thing. But the second thing is going to the point about China. Well, there's 2 things first. The first is, as we know, the Chinese government have a long history of, I guess, theft of intellectual property. In other words, stealing our very best ideas. I think now that we've run out of good ideas, they've started stealing our very worst ideas. And I call this unintellectual property theft, namely identity politics. So they've seen the garbage being churned out by our universities. You know, it used to be great designs and manufacturing ideas and so on. Now they see all this rubbish coming out of our universities and they go, great, we'll copy that. Identity politics, how easy is this? So they're cross with Australia for daring to inquire into where their deadly coronavirus came from. And so they threaten to cut off our wine, our beef and all that. That's classic trade bullying. But then they think, hang on, let's just play the race card. Let's just say that Australians are all racist, turn off the tourism tap. How easy is that? and it gets bought lock, stock and down.
But what I can't. But the thing is, I was listening to Dan Tehan, the Education Minister, say there's no truth in this. Blah blah is rubbish, and all that kind of thing, which is great. Good on you, Dan. And university chancellors complaining. But China has actually not said anything. The ABC hasn't coached Australians to think for years. I mean, it's gone out of its way to find complaints and then to amplify them and magnify them. So what are people complaining for? Why don't you start complaining against the ABC?
You could argue on that basis, Andrew, that the ABC have been running an anti-advertising campaign for Australia. That's what our $1 billion gets us. And it's true, because they've demonised the Great Barrier Reef. They've demonised climbing Uluru. They've demonised Australians' people as being racist. No wonder nobody wants to come here. And they're doing people out of the jobs when the borders finally open. Yes,
the Great Barrier Reef, absolutely destroyed by global warming. Don't bother coming. By the way, I had a brain freeze when talking about that Australian in China was complaining all that. It's Harry Harding, Queensland guy, working as a TV and radio host of the largest television network in China's Guangdong province, known to Chinese fans as Hazard, I think it is. Anyway, Harry Potter, or at least the annual actor Daniel Radcliffe, Rowan, he turns out to be a real wizard at this new transgender politics. Now, he's turned against Harry Potter author JK Rowling for saying the other day, which we discussed the other day, that men don't menstruate. I thought, what's men doing in menstruate if men don't menstruate? But there you go. He says transgender women are women, and any statement to the contrary, that they're male, erases their identity and dignity. Now, Rowan, I respect, he made clear that he's saying this because he wants to be nice. He wants them to feel comfortable. And that is a very noble sentiment. But I also think that he's made a choice to make them feel good as opposed to actually saying what the science is. What do you think? Has he chosen the right side of that debate?
Well, you've got to remember Daniel Radcliffe has spent his entire life, really, surrounded by magic. So he was, the most magical thing of all was that a kid with so little personality and so little acting talent actually got to star in 5 of the biggest blockbuster movies of all time. But that's a different story. He's been surrounded by magic. Maybe he missed schooling tuition lessons during all those long hours of filming against blue screen and all the rest of it, because he obviously skipped his biology lessons. And he's got this fanciful, magical idea, I guess, that men can be women and women can be men at the stroke of a wand or a magic couple of words and away you go. The reality is that JK Rowling is correct. Now, I'm not saying that from my point of view. I'm saying that from the point of view of at least 3 transgender women I know who we've had on outside, as Kate McGregor, Walt Heyer, Debbie Hayton, all who have been on our show, all of whom are men who transitioned to women, all of whom say that they are not women. They insist, in fact, I quote Kate McGregor, as Australia's most famous transgender person, as saying she is not a woman. She is a transsexual, the same as Carlotta, our previous most famous transsexual. So that's them saying that. So I would rather listen to them than listen to an actor trying to curry favour with the cool, trendy Hollywood crowd. And the reality is that, as Debbie Hayton herself wrote and got all sorts of hate mail for, it is magical thinking to say that just simply by an operation or drugs, a man can become a woman. It's far more complex than that.